Hello everyone, welcome back to Spar&Brawl. So as you might be aware, a lot of news stories have come out that there's this new study which shows the effectiveness of the Russian coronavirus vaccine, so Sputnik V. And I found the reaction to it quite interesting from the Western media, and it changed a bit from the initial reaction they had about 6 months ago. But before we get into that, Sam, did you hear about it? Do you read anything about the study or what's been shared so far?
Not really, to be honest. I did read that I think it's been approved by international bodies to be used, and it was approved by Iranian authorities to be used as well. That's all I heard.
Yeah, I think it's been approved in some specific countries. So I have a little bit of specific information on the vaccine that I'll share first, and then I wanted to do a little comparison between the how they're talking about it now as opposed to when Russia first announced that they had registered the vaccine in August. So this study that was published in the Lancet, which is a British medical journal, covers the study done on Sputnik V. It was a phase 3 study. So there were 20,000 people in this, which is about 10 to 20,000 less than the trials that Moderna and Pfizer had. It was conducted by people who went to a hospital, and 3/4 of these people received the actual vaccine 21 days apart, and only a quarter of them received the placebo. So apparently, based on this 20,000 people, it's 91% effective to prevent inoculated individuals from becoming severely ill with COVID-19, but it is unclear if Sputnik V can stop transmission. So these are words from their press release. Regarding deaths and adverse effects, apparently 4 people died during this trial, and 3 were in the vaccine group and 1 in the placebo. However, 1 of the deaths were apparently related to fracture, and 2 had underlying conditions and developed symptoms of COVID-19 4 to 5 days after the first dose of the vaccine. So they believe that these people pretty much got the virus before the vaccine had really kicked in. And technically, for those who are interested in just how this vaccine works, the Russian vaccine uses a modified version of the common cold-causing adenovirus to carry genes for the spike protein in the coronavirus as a way to prime the body to react if COVID-19 comes along. So this is a similar technology to the vaccine developed by AstraZeneca and Oxford University. But unlike AstraZeneca's 2-dose vaccine, the Russians use a slightly different adenovirus for the second booster shot. So apparently it's very similar to the Oxford vaccine. And yeah, speaking of authorizations, so they've received authorizations in a bunch of former Soviet countries, such as Belarus, Armenia, but also in Argentina, Bolivia, Algeria, Serbia, and Iran, and Palestine, and UAE. And I think we might have some more information on the process in Iran. Production-wise, this is interesting. So the production of the Sputnik V will span several countries, including India, South Korea, Brazil, and China. And according to the CEO, there are chances that it might also be in Iran. So they might also even start manufacturing the vaccine in Iran. But okay, let's get into the reactions. This is what caught my attention. So I read article written by ABC and NBC. They all kind of had the same quotes and the same people, and it wasn't usually the way that you hear people talking about Russia. So Roy, a professor of virology and the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine, said, "Initially I had some concerns about what they were saying and thought they were getting too much publicity, but the data are now very strong. Then a British scientist, Ian Jones, and Polly Roy wrote in the accompanying commentary to the study that the outcome reported here is clear. Another vaccine can now join the fight to reduce incidence of COVID-19. Another doctor quoted in the same article, Dr. Julian Tang, a clinical virologist at the University of Leicester, said, despite the early misgivings about the way this Russian Sputnik V vaccine was rolled out more widely, this approach has been justified to some extent now. Such pandemic-related vaccine rollout compromises have, to be fair, been adopted in the UK vaccination program also, with the extended intervals between the first and second doses. So we should be more careful about being overly critical about other countries' vaccine designs." And finally, Angela Merkel said in an interview that every vaccine is welcome in the European Union, praising the good data related to Russia's Sputnik V product. So kind of now since this has come out, I guess I was really surprised by the tune. There wasn't the usual stuff that you hear about Russia, and here's kind of the usual stuff I was referring to. So in August, this is how Euronews reacted to the to Russia registering their vaccine. There's no data, there's no transparency, there's no FDA in Russia, and they get a history of approving drugs and vaccines with little or no testing. So this was said by Peter Pitts, who was the former Associate Commissioner of the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, so the FDA. And he added that
So he was completely unbiased. That's
yeah,
what
of
you're
course,
saying.
exactly.
Yeah,
And I
yeah,
love
yeah.
this.
He had no interest in the game. Oh, yeah.
No, and I love this sentence. It's less of a vaccine and more of a Molotov cocktail at this point, which is exactly what we don't need in the global battle against COVID-19. This was also the headline of the Euronews article. And then I have a final one here. This was in ABC Australia. They wrote that reckless is the mildest word you can use for the decision of the Russian authorities. So, I mean, this was just the kind of childish way that they interpreted the Russians saying that they registered their vaccine. They, for some reason, all these educated people in the media who should know more than just literally repeating word by word what the Russians have said or how they're promoting it, in Russia. You're supposed to read the news and, interpret it properly. So they thought, oh yeah, no, people are just going to start getting vaccinated now immediately with this Russian vaccine. But yeah, they just did it slightly differently, but they've also done their phase 3 trials and everything. So everyone seems to be happy now. But I was really shocked. I mean, at first I didn't find it to be a big story, but the way that these Western media outlets had covered it was interesting. It was a bit different than the stuff they usually say.
I mean, I think first of all, the vaccine has proven itself now. Second of all, Trump is out of power, so I think the Russia smearing things are gonna die down a little because, as I mentioned it, I think in our previous videos, both Obama, Bush, they all tried to basically have a better relationship with Russia. It wasn't just Trump. In fact, Trump was harsher on Russia than Obama, I think. If you look into the minutiae of their policies, for example, Trump sold far more weapons to enemies of Russia than Obama did. So I think that may have to do with it. But another fact is that it's proven itself now, so it's hard to, to knock it down. Kind of like Bitcoin or digital currencies, they used to make fun of them and say, oh, in a year or so it's all fraud, it's all bullshit. But then they turn out they weren't complete frauds or whatever. But something that I don't think you've heard even, there was sort of a council of Iranian doctors of some kind, or an institute of Iranian. It's sort of like a union of doctors or institute of doctors. I think it was literally 4 or 5 days ago. They sent out a public letter to the government that if you use a Sputnik V, you're putting people's life in danger, and this is playing games with the thing. And then like 2 days later, Lancet, which is, it's internationally recognized, the thing that they accept, reported this data and these latest. So I don't know how embarrassed they feel, but people forget. They don't care. People quickly forget these things. But that was quite interesting to me that, like it was not even a week after they sent the letter, because sadly around the world, everywhere, there is somewhat of a, I don't know why, but, there is significant numbers of people hold the Russian government in a lot of, not that they don't deserve contempt, but more contempt than other governments. I don't know if they deserve more than others. But so, that was interesting. And the fact that, for example, Merkel came out in support of it somewhat. A lot of people changed their views, it seems, and are more positive about it. The important issue is for enough people, especially people who are, with preconditions, older people, to get vaccinated. And I think, sadly, these type of scaremongering and political game playing that, Russian vaccine is that, Pfizer is this, the other one is that, all of that is going to lead to more suspicious among the people, majority of people, that, there is a game going on. And so I don't think it's helpful to, yeah. If you're gonna attack something, attack it based on, merits rather than its country of origins, I think.
Exactly. Like the whole childish way that they reported originally doesn't help anyone. You're supposed to understand and have some analysis of the way that Russia is reporting, and then you come and report it. But also another thing that you're saying that the results are out, so they can't bash it anymore. But we also did the story last week about the whole COVID-19 infighting in Europe and there not being enough vaccines. So I think they're also starting to get desperate and being like, hey, we might have to buy some of these Russian vaccines, so we better shut up a little bit and see what happens.
True.
Because apparently, and Hungary has already received their first batch, and they're criticizing the Europeans, for the way that they're trying to go about it. So I think there's that too. They might be like, hey, we may have to come to this. Oh, and another technical thing that I mentioned I forgot to mention in my quick technical overview, but is that apparently you can also keep this one in a normal fridge, which is, of course, another added benefit. And I mean, it's right now, if you take the effectiveness that they've given you at face value, it's more effective than the Oxford one and the Chinese ones. Although, I mean, I don't know how much you should take the 90% seriously. Maybe we'll drop down to 80% with a bigger sample. But if not, I mean, their effectiveness is right up there with Moderna and Pfizer.
I think it's even more effective than Pfizer, from what I recall. It's like 1% difference, though.
I mean, I just wouldn't take those like 100% literally. I mean, who makes it? Originally, they had said anything over 50% they might approve. So
while we're on this topic, though, interestingly, I was reading that there is a big sort of a big market battle going on in Africa over who can supply African countries like Zimbabwe, which has apparently financial issues with providing. Chinese and Russians are aggressively apparently battling each other out in supplying vaccines. So this may because this vaccine is something that probably has to be re-administered every couple of months, or at least I think every year or so. So because of that, we may see an interesting aspect of global economics to open up, like a supplier of vaccines is going to become a massive thing, and it's going to become involved in political battles and all that. So it's fascinating stuff. But at the same time, although I would say that you always have a critical eye, of course, about everything. It's just don't criticize the stuff based on country of origins. It kind of shows, it does show a bit of a, there are better, you can be critical in a more substantial way. Why? Well, it's easier, I suppose, but
don't take politicians and everybody at their word. If Russia says they've registered the vaccine, if you want to come and do genuine reporting, just kind of try to read between the lines. Did they ever say that we're going to come and vaccinate your mom tomorrow or something? Like, things like this were not said.
They called me personally and they said, your mom.
I mean, and apparently they have vaccinated 1 million people, but that was only in December. So since then, they had a lot more of phase 2 and 3 and different kind of trials going on within their own country. But it doesn't help anybody reporting in this way.
By the way, that's somewhat unrelated, but Iranian the Iranian and Cuba are making a vaccine together in a joint production, and that's starting its phase 3 human trial tomorrow, I think. Okay. I think that the first 2 parts was in Cuba. I think that this part is going to be in Iran. So that's interesting. We'll see if anything comes out of that.
Yeah, and so many vaccine brands and everything. I was just wondering, like, can you get like one type? Because some of them are not even just different brands. They're built differently and they do different things, right? Some of the old school way where you give a little bit of disease. Some of them are not that way. Can you get one kind of vaccine this year and another one next year? I don't know. I wonder.
Yeah. Would there be a problem with their interaction if it's? Yeah. We have to. All of this is
if you're not happy with one of them, you're like, I'm switching things up next time. I swear, last time I'm getting this. This Pfizer.
I'm not doing a Sputnik anymore. I'm Pfizer all. It's really interesting. I think by the end of, if 2021 is anything like 2020 and the last few years before that, we're gonna soon all become like polymaths. Like everybody's an expert in vaccination. And look, the stage 3 trial consists of 100,000. Like, who knew all this stuff? Now everybody knows everything.
I swear to God.
This chemical is in this way. There is a 1.1.
During my entire 9-month career of following vaccine, I have never seen such inadequate trials. Unacceptable.
This is the first time I read about vaccines, and I am disgusted.
But yeah, we're the same. I'm learning a lot about these vaccine stuff, kind of different than from the social science studies and everything that I'm used to reading. But okay, on that note, thank you everyone for watching this video. If you like the content, please make sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you in our next video.